Hello, welcome to Friday of the Chainlink Hackathon, where we are going to do introduction to front end. Going to give everyone a couple minutes to join. I'm going to post in the announcements channel. It's going to be an amazing session. We're doing introduction to front end, how to build a website in Web3. I'm going to post it to the Discord. How's everybody doing today? Happy Friday. GM. Happy Friday, everybody. How we doing? How is everybody? I'm feeling phenomenal right now. I feel very, very good. Let me switch over to my bed head. Hello. How's everybody doing today? This is what I need. Excellent. Good morning. How are we doing today? How's everyone enjoying the workshops, enjoying the hackathon, enjoying everything? How are things going? Everyone have teams, everyone's starting to build, learning really valuable skills, testing them out themselves. How are we doing? How are we doing? And before anybody leaves, if you could fill out the feedback form, which I will post here, right here, posting in the chat. And I got a little QR code up here. You want to scan it. After this is done, please fill that out. Give us feedback. Let us know if you like this workshop or not. Cool. All right. Good morning. You need some rest. A little tired, but excited. Okay, cool. Excellent. Yep, here's the feedback form. Been amazing hackathon so far. Excellent. Hello there. Pretty early for a session. Yeah, not really. It's 7:30 where I am. Didn't join any teams. Well, you should join some teams or just build yourself, whatever you want to do. Their QR code gone too soon. Well, the workshop hasn't ended, so that's why. GM and happy Friday, all kind of said. Best hackathon ever. Wow. Excellent feedback. Yeah, so scan the QR code after hackathon. This workshop is done, and let us know what you thought. But cool. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. Let's just jump right into the code. It's 3 minutes after. Oh, did I do the display right? Oh, I did the display right this time. All right, let's go. It's 3 minutes after, and let's talk about Web3 websites. So all of the code we're going to be going over today is available in this repo here. And this repo is a collection of other repos, where the most important one is going to be this HTML JS Ethers Connect one, right? This is going to be kind of our home base. This is where we're going to learn all the fundamentals here, okay? But this main repo is the one we're going to be learning the majority of our stuff here. And what we're going to be learning about is, let's say, if you came to any of the sessions yesterday, we know we did a whole bunch of stuff with Aave, right? And when we were playing with Aave, our MetaMask popped up and we connected, right? And let's go ahead and disconnect here. Right, MetaMask popped up, or let me do a little refresh. We have this big connect wallet button, and our dashboard, Aave can't display anything because it's like, hey, I don't have a connection to the blockchain. I don't know what's on the blockchain. But when we connect our wallet, right, we connect our MetaMask here. We get all this stuff, right? And if I had any money in this wallet, it would let me like supply, borrow, and send transactions. It would let us send transactions here. But we don't. But we don't have any money, so we're not going to send any transactions. So the question is, how do we actually interact? How do we build protocols that allow us to interact with Aave and allow us to do everything that Aave and all these other websites do, right? Or if I go to like Uniswap, for example, if you're familiar with Uniswap, let's Let's launch the app. When I go to Uniswap, how can I, put in 1 ETH for one other token, right? 1 ETH for like this 1 DAI for, normally if I had any DAI in my balance, I'd be able to swap and, go and la-di-da. How do we actually do that? Well, the first thing to understand about all this is that when we have a MetaMask or a Solana inside our browser here, a new special variable is injected into our websites. So if I right click and I hit inspect on any website that I have, MetaMask and Solana installed on, I go over to console. Let me just refresh here. Got a whole bunch of stuff in here, but in our consoles, in our browsers, we have this object called window, which displays a ton of information about the window. Let me zoom in a whole bunch here. This object called window, right? Window. It's got a ton of stuff in it. And when we have MetaMask and Solana, if we do window.ethereum, we get this object here. And MetaMask injects this window.ethereum. Solana injects this window.solana. This allows, and then other browsers will inject window. Whatever. And other browser extenders will do that. And what they allow us to do is they allow us to make API calls through our MetaMask RPC URLs. Now you might be saying, wait, Patrick, what are you talking about? Well, let's check out the MetaMask docs here. So even in the MetaMask docs, they have in some JavaScript here. Window.ethereum does not equal undefined, blah, blah, blah. And then where's the thing I want to see? They have this const accounts equals await Ethereum.request. So this is some JavaScript that we can write that says, hey, connect to the MetaMask. And when we connect to the MetaMask, as we know, whenever we send a transaction to a blockchain, we need a connection to that blockchain. Connecting to our MetaMask gives us that connection to our blockchain. Well, you might be asking, how is that even possible? Well, in our MetaMask, if we go to our ad network, right, and then we go to networks, we can see Ethereum mainnet has its own RPC URL that's connected to Infura. So MetaMask comes built in with RPC URLs to different blockchains. Look, it's got one for Robson, it's got one for Rinkeby, Gorilli, Coven. It comes built in with connections to Infura. And when we connect our application to MetaMask, what we can do then is it doesn't show it on here. Once we connect, we can send our MetaMask regular transactions as we would kind of like on Hard Hat, Brownie, etc. Okay. So we connect to our MetaMask, we connect to our RPC URL, and we send regular transactions to that RPC URL. Now, there are more ways than just connected to MetaMask, and we'll go over that as well. But this is essentially the secret sauce. This is what's going on. When we hit enable Ethereum, right, we're calling this accounts equals await Ethereum.request, blah, blah, const account equals account 0, and MetaMask pops up, and we connect. And once we do that, we can send transactions to each account for whoever owns the MetaMask to approve. And if Infura goes down, you can actually swap out this. You could edit your Ethereum mainnet, swap it out for, or maybe you can't because it's locked. I'm pretty sure you can, but maybe you can't. You can add Alchemy or any other RPC URL, right? If I wanted to add a network, I could call it like mainnet Alchemy and then do Alchemy Alchemy URL here, ... So I can do any blockchain I want. But that essentially is the secret sauce, and that is the key to understanding front-end development. Does that make sense here? Does anyone have any questions Yes, if you run your if you own nodes, you can run your MetaMask through those RPC endpoints, like Strong Thor. I'm not sure what Strong Thor, but yes, you can run your own nodes and just stick them in your MetaMask. Exactly. But yeah, this is the secret sauce, and this is what we're going to be showing you how to do today. Any questions on that before we jump in and get started? Because this is important to understand before moving forward. Give it a solid minute here. Any blockchain on Ethereum. So Ethereum is a blockchain. There are no additional blockchains on top of Ethereum. There are blockchains built based off of Ethereum, but there are no blockchains on it. So any EVM compatible blockchains like Avalanche, Polygon. Sorry, my quality just took a dive. I'm going to get a big Ethernet cable for any time I go live moving in the future. Yes, and if not, I'll follow up, and hopefully we'll get an email sent out. What does the RPC do exactly? Yes, good question. So let's go to that works. So when we connect, when we want to send a transaction to a blockchain, we have to send it to a single blockchain node, right? And that blockchain, or many, but at least one. And that blockchain node is going to be the one to propagate the transaction and tell all the other nodes about that transaction. So an RPC URL is a connection to a blockchain node. When you run a blockchain node, you can optionally enable an HTTP endpoint to accept requests. And that's exactly what this is. So this RPC URL is pointing to a blockchain node running somewhere that Infura hosts right now. And that's pretty much it. So we need this blockchain connection to send transactions to that blockchain node. If Windows.Ethereum is injected by MetaMask, will other wallets do the same? Yes. So like you can see, our Solana wallet does window.solana, MetaMask is window.ethereum. Other wallets will be window. Something else. Quality was coming in. Awesome. What framework are we coding with today? Actually, to start, we're going to be doing just raw HTML and Ethers. So we're not even going to be using a framework. We're going to be coding this nearly raw. Yep, remote procedure call. It's basically the point you can communicate with the blockchain. I hope hard hat. I missed the stuff yesterday. Today we're doing HTML and Next.js and Ethers. So we're not doing a whole lot of hard hat. I can't see the settings in Brave. Not exposed in Brave. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm fixing to get back to YouTube. Collab at some point? Absolutely. Do RPC nodes charge something, and how? Yes, good question. So the ones built into your MetaMask don't charge anything, but that's because they're rate limited. Most RPC nodes charge based off of use. So if you make 10 bajillion calls, they're going to charge you for 10 bajillion calls because that's going to be very taxing on their servers. But keep in mind, you can always run your own blockchain nodes. You can always run your own blockchain nodes and swap this out for your own instead of using a third party. How does a custom wallet inject window.ethereum or window.solana? Great question. So when you add it as a browser extension, right? Whenever you add it as a browser extension, there's some code that says, okay, any website you go to now, inject window.ethereum and inject window.solana. So it's basically, there's some browser code that automatically injects those into your window. So if we have our own RPC nodes, is there any benefit in connecting them? Yeah, absolutely. It could be a lot cheaper, right, to make RPC calls. You'll be contributing to the decentrality of the network by having your own nodes. There's a lot of benefits to do that. Where to put the questions? I think you found it. Can you send transactions between different wallets? You absolutely can. Yes. Seems like some RPCs might have a limit on view functions when dealing with large amounts of data and single transactions. Maybe. Zoomin, what's up, Zoomin? How do we know we connect? How do we know the node we connect to is trustworthy and fully synced? Are we dependent on them to access? Really good question. So when we send a transaction to these blockchain nodes, when we send a transaction here, the worst that can happen is they don't send our transaction. The worst that can happen is they don't send our transaction. So with that, we can't send them anything malicious, right? Because we are the ones who control our private keys. So we are the ones who will be signing our transactions, right? And then we can just take our signed transaction and we're basically sending it to them and saying, hey, I signed this. Can you send it? And they'll just send it or not. So if you don't trust that they're going to send it, if you don't trust that they're going to do what they say that they're going to do, again, then you could just run your own node. So yes, there is a component of trust where we are trusting them to send our transaction or not. But again, the worst thing that they can do is not send our transaction, right? They can't manipulate our transaction because it's cryptographically guaranteed. They can't send it to some weird place or do some weird stuff. They can only send it on, where we ask them to send them. Really good question. So we are a little bit dependent on them to access, and that's another reason why having your own node can be incredibly powerful. When would you want to run your node rather than this method? Good question. If you want to increase the decentrality of the network, if you want to never have to rely on a third-party RPC, if you're a miner, if you're a validator, those are kind of some of the reasons, but it's really up to you. Yeah, you'll be able to run yours if fear goes down. Also, you're the only one on those rather than you being on local nodes, quicker transactions, etc. Yep. I have my own Inferior API key, and they give you a certain number of calls for free, but you pay to increase the numbers. Yes, and then Alchemy is sponsoring this hackathon, and they are also really good. Morales has one as well. Where can I update the RPC nodes that MetaMask uses? So again, if you go to MetaMask, add network, in networks. So, so MetaMask, they kind of just have like .inferior.io v3. They don't show the key here, but they have a like kind of a their own like Inferior key in here too. And it looks like I actually can't. I thought I could update these before, but it looks like you can't update these main ones. You can just do add network and add a new network with your own information in there. Are we deploying a deployment on platform like Fleek or Vercel Firebase? If we have time, yes. If we have time, yes. In the dropdown from the top, select add networks and then networks from settings. Yes. Got it now. Thanks. Cool. All right. It sounds like we kind of understand what's going on. So let's jump into the code. So what we're going to be doing is I'm first going to be showing you how to build a website completely raw using HTML and JavaScript. Why? Well, because that's going to be like the minimalist example, and I didn't want to pick a specific framework first for us to use. So we're just going to use HTML and JavaScript. However, I do have some a bunch of Next.js examples in here because Next.js is awesome, and each one of these Next.js applications uses a slightly different package to actually connect. So we're going to get started with the HTML one. Let me just pull up my stuff. Hold on. Had the wrong code up. There we go. Okay. All right, cool. So let's jump into the code. Okay. So I'm in my Visual Studio Code. I'm in my code editor. You can be in whatever editor you want. And yes, this VOD will be up afterwards. How to claim Alchemy 2 free month subscription. I'll double check. They said that they sent out the link, but I'll double check with them. Oh, it says you just DM. I thought they emailed the link. I'll double check. All right, but here we are in our code editor. Ah, that's not what I wanted. Here we are in our code editor. And we're going to create a real minimalistic website. All websites are basically doing some type of HTML file. So we're going to create an index.html. And in VS Code, you can just type exclamation mark and it'll sync you up some real minimalistic HTML. And this is kind of like the basics of what we need for a website. So we now have this doc type HTML. We have these HTML tags. In between these HTML tags is kind of everything that describes what our website looks like. Now, I'm not going to go over, how does HTML work. If you don't know how HTML works, there's a ton of like, hey, here's what HTML is, websites out there for you to learn from. So basically everything goes in between tags, right? Everything goes in between tags, and that's HTML. Now, if I do something like hi, what I can do is I have an extension called live server, which just basically runs a little server to host this little index.html. I'm going to hit go live, which will click to run the server. Back in our localhost now on 127.0.0.0, dash index.html, I get this hi thing, right? And if I change this from hi to was up, and now it says was up, and now we have a minimalistic website, guys. We all did it. Congrats. We can go home now. Just kidding. So, and if you're following along with the GitHub repo and you don't have VS Code, I also have a script in here. Excuse me, not a script. We also added a package called HTTP server. You can install it with yarn and then just run yarn HTTP server, and it'll spin up a site for you as well. So that should also work. All right, cool. So we have this super minimalistic website here. So in this website, we're probably going to want to connect to MetaMask. So what we can do, we can do like a little script tag, and we can start adding some JavaScript in our website in between these script tags here. So for example, I could say, async function connect. And in this async function connect, we can try to connect to that window.ethereum object. So we'll just say if type of window.ethereum does not equal undefined. The reason that we do this is before we try to connect, we want to make sure that window.ethereum exists. So we're saying, hey, if you can see MetaMask or Solana installed, right? If type of window.ethereum does not equal undefined, if that is there, let's go try to connect. So we'll do await Ethereum, or excuse me, window.ethereum, Ethereum dot request, and then we'll give them the method, which is going to be ETH request accounts. And then that's pretty much it, right? So we have this connect function, which is going to call ETH request accounts. Great. So outside of our script, maybe above, we'll create button on our website that just says connect button, and on click, we'll say on click equals connect. Now, if we go back to our website, we have this connect button. Right now, we are not connected. Let's just make sure we're not connected. Right now, we are not connected. And if we hit connect, well, what do you know? MetaMask pops up. Next, connect, and boom. And now we are connected. Well, excuse me. Switch to this account. Excuse me. Now we are connected, right? We're connected to our website here. And now we can send transactions through our front end. So it's really, that's really, if we're trying to make something incredibly minimalistic, that's it, right? And then we can do some stuff like, let's give this an ID equals connect button. Then we can do some stuff like document dot get element by ID. We'll say connect button dot inner HTML equals. So we'll hit connect, and now we see it says connected. Cool. Any questions about this so far? Because that is really the smallest way to tell you about the secret sauce of how to connect to an RPC like a MetaMask. Okay, some questions. What's the VS Code extension called to spin up a server? Yes, it's called Live Server. Here's what it looks like. Great question. Is there a next/React npm package for Ethers.js? There's a ton of them, actually. There's a ton of them. And we probably won't have time to go over them today, but each one of these projects here uses a different Next.js React package for working with like Ethers and stuff. Good question. Yeah, like I said, I will I'll sync with Alchemy. I'll put an announcement in the Discord just to make sure we're all on the same page. But any questions about this so far? Everyone seems like they're on the same page, right? Yes, good, bad, no? Cool. How do you specify the network and suggest that they switch to that network? So the network is specified by whatever network that they're connected to. And there are some MetaMask and API calls we can make to switch the network. We're not going to get that today because that's a little bit more advanced. Great question. So you try to connect and manually require MetaMask accept to move on. Yes, and that's actually good, right? We don't want websites to just be able to connect to our MetaMask whenever they want. That sounds terrifying. So yes, we need them to accept. My MetaMask does not pop up. If it doesn't pop up, you may want to hit the console and see if you're getting an error or something. Maybe something is going on here. Or if you're already connected, nothing will show up, right? So you need to go to MetaMask and then disconnect. And then if you hit it again, it'll show back up. Can we interact with more than one network at a time? No. What is the purpose of connecting a web app to MetaMask? Well, what would you do with this connection? Amazing question. So with this connection, we can send transactions to whoever is connected to their MetaMask, right? And this gives rise to this concept called sign in with Ethereum, right? So instead of signing in with like an email and a password and all that stuff, which in my mind is way less secure because, if the database gets hacked, if they forget to salt the passwords and all this other stuff, instead of having to rely on some centralized login, they can just log in with MetaMask and they can then send transactions through your website to the blockchain. So it's incredibly powerful here. So speaking of sending transactions, let's learn how to do that. Let's learn how to send some transactions. Now, for this project, I do have another repo that I want to work with. It's called Hard Hat Simple Storage. And yes, I know it's Hard Hat, but again, it doesn't matter. You can use Brownie, Brownie, Hard Hat, Truffle, whatever you want. All we're going to use this for is to deploy a contract that we can interact with. on our local chain. So we're going to deploy this simple storage.sol, which is this minimalistic contract here. The main thing that it has is this store function. It's got this store function which says, okay, store some number, and we have a retrieve function which retrieves that favorite number. And that's it. So we're going to use this hardhat simple storage to do that. So in my code base, I'm actually going to cd down, and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to git clone it. Git clone that. I'm going to cd into hardhat simple storage. We're going to run yarn just to install everything, or npm install. I know I said we wouldn't be doing hardhat or anything, but this is just to spin up a blockchain to show you what it's going to look like sending transactions to a blockchain, sending transactions to our own local blockchain. If you want, you can deploy something to a testnet and try playing around with it like that. I don't recommend doing that because yeah, like I said, it's a testnet, and testnets take a really long time to do. Yeah, simple storage, the hello world of blockchain. Yes. Is this using Angular or React? This is using none of those. Right now, this is just kind of raw HTML JavaScript. Like I said, I do have some other examples that use React and Next.js that you can go check out. How is ETH request accounts different than ETH accounts? Both does the same job. No. So ETH request accounts is going to prompt that pop-up saying, hey, do you want to connect to this website? I think ETH accounts doesn't do that. I'm pretty sure ETH accounts doesn't do that. Yeah, basic HTML. Do you mind throwing that GitHub link in here? Yes. Or no, I don't mind. I do not mind. Good call. Sorry. Hardhat simple storage. So after we've installed everything, we can go ahead and run that node, right? So we can do this package is set up in a way where it'll just automatically deploy that contract for us so we can interact with it. So we can do yarn hardhat node, and if we scroll up, it says deploying simple storage, waiting for confirmations. Simple storage deploy to blah, 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 blah. And we have all these fake accounts in here. And just by doing yarn hardhat node, we're now running our own little fake blockchain in the terminal right here. So we're running our own blockchain in the terminal, and we even get our own JSON RPC server located right here. What do you know? So guess what we can do? We can grab this URL, and we can go to our MetaMask, and we can add a new network. So I already have mine, so I'll spare you the details. Networks, we can add a new network, right? For me, I already have this one added. It's called hardhat localhost, with the network name being hardhat localhost, the RPC URL being that server that it gives us right here, right? The chain ID is going to be 31337. This is the chain ID for any hardhat localhost. Currency symbol being ETH, or I think for hardhat they actually call it Go, but like we're just going to do ETH. Yeah. The network with chain ID 333, maybe it's a different symbol Go than when you've entered, but whatever. And now we have a new network that we can work with in our hardhat localhost, which is great, in our MetaMask. So we have a hardhat localhost, and what we can do too, as you can see, I have like $1 bajillion in here because it gives you all these private keys. We can grab one of these private keys, come back to our MetaMask, do import account, private key, paste it in here, and hit import. And I've already imported it, so that's why I'm saying you're a duplicate. But now we can work with these accounts that have a ton of fake ETH in them, right? That are associated with our fake blockchain, and we can use them to test and do stuff on the front end. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that clear what we're doing? So we're spinning up our own local blockchain. We're adding it to our MetaMask, and now we're going to use it to send transactions to. And so to the person who said, hey, why would we even bother, connecting to MetaMask? Well, you're about to see. You are about to see. Yep. Yes, we are very rich in our local blockchain worlds. Was having issues with Chainlink 31337 using hardhat and MetaMask. Need to change to 1337. So yeah, so maybe 1337 is what your hardhat is configured to do. I know that's what Ganache is. It's over 9,000. The throwback memes, I love it. All right, cool. So we have this running in its own terminal. Now we want to keep this running in its terminal. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit a little plus button. And now we have two terminals up, right? One is running that hardhead blockchain, and then one we're going to use for other stuff in this front-end Web3 repo or folder. So we have that up. Now what do we want to do? Well, let's add some stuff in here because, like I said, in our simple storage code, where is it? In our simple storage contract that we just deployed, we've got a function here called store, right? We should figure out how can we call this store function. How can we call this store function? And that's what we're going to do now, because we'll learn how to call the store function and then read from the blockchain and call this retrieve function. This approach is awesome using HTML because yes. Oh, well, thank you. Are we going to see it in React or Next? If we have time, yes. If we have time. I have those examples in that repo to show you how to do it. So connecting here. Now what we're going to do is to show you how to send a transaction, we're actually going to create a new file called index.js. And we're going to move all of our JavaScript out of our index.html and into our index.js. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all this. Like that. And we're going to add it all into this. I'm just going to paste it. Oh, just kidding, because we're just going to do it with this index.js. Because we can actually import stuff from index.js into index.html. So in our index.html, we're just going to say script src equals, and then we're going to point to the folder that we're doing. And I haven't done it yet because I need to show you all something. Now in our index.js, because this is front end that we're working with, I know we've been doing a lot of like const blah, blah, blah equals require, blah, blah, blah. If you've been working with Node.js, require doesn't work in the front end. Yes, back-end JavaScript and front-end JavaScript, even though they're front-end JavaScript, they are not the same JavaScript, which is very confusing. So this is no bueno. This is no good. Can't do that. So what does work in the front end is import. And this is going to be kind of bad practice. But again, it's just going to show you and make it a little bit easier for people who are newer to this. We're going to add a package to this that allows us to do const x equals require. It's going to allow us to do these require things. Okay. It's this thing called Browserify. So we're going to do yarn add Browserify. And the reason we're adding this is because we're going to work with Ethers. We're going to be working with Ethers.js to do a lot of this stuff. And we're going to need to do, const Ethers equals require Ethers, right? And we can't do this on the front end. We can't do const Ethers equals require Ethers. The front end's going to go, I have no idea what you're talking about here. But just to make it easier so that we continue with this syntax here, we'll install that Browserify thing. And then what we can do is we can run yarn Browserify index.js -s standalone bundle -o, and then we'll create a dist folder and call it bundle.js. Oh, excuse me. I ran into an issue here. Can't find module ethers. Oops. Yarn add ethers. Sorry. What this is going to do, it's going to create a dist folder. And inside this dist folder is going to be our front end. And I'm going to run that command again. It's going to be our front. This bundle.js is the front endified code of index.js. Yes, this tiny little line, front endified, is this horrible monstrosity. This horrible, horrible monstrosity. So we're going to front endify our code here. But works perfect with import. See, I've had a lot of trouble with import and ethers, and to save everyone the trouble, we're just going to do Browserify, which I know is a horrible, awful hack. Horrible, awful hack, but for this is what we're doing. So now in our bundle.js, so all right, so let me show you what happens when we do import ethers from ethers. And then we'll do some ethers thing. So if we do import ethers from ethers, and now in our script we do /index.js. And then we'll create a function, async function connect. Then we'll do if window.ethereum does not equal undefined n. Run that await requests. Then we'll do here, connect. That looks good. Okay, cool. So let's go back to our front end, do a little refresh. Can I use import statement outside of a module, right? We're doing an import and it's going to say, oh, then the next logical thing to do is, okay, well, then let's just do, what is it? Index.mjs. Okay, cool. We'll just modularize it. Index.mjs. Do another refresh. Still's mad at us. There's some annoying things with doing import instead of require. Import's definitely better. Require is kind of ugly, but I want to save people the issue of like running into that stuff. So, no, I agree. It's kind of an awful hack, but that's what we're going to use here, just to make it a little easier for people to running into that module stuff. So what we're going to do, instead of pointing to index.js, we're going to point to this dist folder where we bundleified it. So we're going to do dist bundle.js where we browserified it. And instead of onClick going to be connect, excuse me, let me change this back to index.js. Instead of onClick being connect, we're going to say bundle.connect. It's going to have the same functionality of what we did before. Patrick, can you zoom in just a bit so we can see more code at once? You mean zoom? Oh, zoom out a bit. Oh, okay. Yes. Sorry. Good call. Now we do a little refresh. We'll hit connect. Bundle is not defined. Oh, excuse me. We need to run yarn browserify again. Dist bundle.js. There we go. Do a refresh. Connect. Bundle is not defined. What am I doing wrong here? Do I need this outside the body tag? Do you still have Browserify active? What do you mean? Do I have it active? It's just a script that runs once. How does Ether's default JSON RPC provider work? We're not going to be working with that. I think that's really confusing. I would say for now, ignore that because I think it's confusing. My face taken on the bottom of the screen. Sorry. So I'm doing something wrong with bundle here. 1 second. What am I doing wrong with the bundle? Oh, right. Okay. So we'll do in our index.js module.exports equals connect. We need to export connect here. We'll run this Browserify again. Cool. Should be good now. We'll do a refresh. Still having issues. Oh, let's kill it and start it back up again. Is that the issue? Because we added new packages. Bundle is not defined. Oh, I think you're right. Yep. Thank you. Type equals text/JavaScript. Thank you. Yep. We got to add type equals text/JavaScript. Now we'll refresh. Next. That wasn't it either? What am I missing? It's like nearly exactly the same code. Let's delete all that. Button bundle.connect. Bundle is not defined. Dist bundle. Oh, I ran my Browserify command wrong. Cool. So yarn, what did I run? What did I run differently? Spell something wrong? All right, well, I got it working now. All right, well, in any case, this is the I'm trying to remember. I think I had a typo in my Browserify command, which seems odd, but that's the command that you should be running. I'm not. Did I not type that? Well, it's working now. So now we'll go ahead and disconnect, right? Just to show you. Disconnect. Hit connect. MetaMask pops up again. Cool. So when we're doing this with index.js, we're doing const ethers equals require. Yes, it's gross. Yes, import is better. But again, none of you are going to be writing your code with HTML and JavaScript anyways. You're going to be using React, where we are going to be using imports because standalone, standalone, not standable. So, thank you for catching my mistake. Yes, standalone. Okay, cool. So now our const is working. We're able to do our connect thing with module.exports and then just grabbing the connect from that bundle that we bundled defined with Browserify. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to figure out how can we call that store function on our contract. So we're going to create a new button and we're going to say on click equals bundle dot execute, or we're going to say bundle dot store. We're going to call our store function and we're going to say store 77 with this button right here. Right. And right now, if we look at our front end, if store 77, it doesn't do anything, right? Because bundle.store is not a function. So we'll go back to our index.js and we'll create a new function. Async function store. This. And we'll add our store bit in here. So we'll have this and we'll export this store function for our front end to call. And what we'll do is we'll do if type of window.ethereum Ethereum is not equal undefined. Oops. We'll call that store function. Now, in order to call the store function, we're going to need an address and an ABI. If you've watched any of my tutorials, you know that I say this all the time. To make any transaction call, you're going to need the contract address and the ABI. Well, in our terminal, when we ran your deploy here, we see simple storage was deployed to blah, blah, blah. We can now just say const address equals bada bing. Okay, cool. But where do we get the ABI from? ABI. Where can we get the ABI from? Well, we go back to our code where we have hard hat running. Excuse me. Go back to our code base where we have hard hat running. All of our code gets compiled to artifacts. And in contracts, you see this simple storage.json, and there's this section called ABI. And guess what? That is the ABI of the entire contract. So we can copy that from artifacts contract slash simple storage.sol, simple storage.json, copy this ABI thing. What we can do, and again, this is in the hard hat simple storage. This is where our contract is compiled. And here we'll just say const ABI equals, and then paste that in all its massively large glory. Again, this isn't a best practice either, but again, just for learning. And now that we have that, we can connect to our blockchain via Ethers and send a transaction. Now, how do we do that? So we're going to say const provider equals new Ethers. Ethers dot providers dot Web3 provider window dot Ethereum. And it's this little line of code where Ether says, hey, I know that MetaMask installation has got a connection to the blockchain. Let's use that as our provider. Let's use that as our blockchain connection. So our provider, our connection to the blockchain is going to be through our MetaMask. Then we can say const signer equals provider.get signer. So now, this is providers, our blockchain connection. Signer is going to be our account, right? Who is going to be signing transactions? And when we call provider.get signer, we're basically just saying, hey, MetaMask, which account is connected? Give me that account. Right now it's account 8. Right? If I switch to account 1, it's not account 1. Account 1's not connected. It's going to be account 8. Account 8 is connected, right? Account 8, active, connected. Give me that signer. Account 8 is also one of my accounts that has the fake localhost key, which is why we have like a ton of ETH in here. Give me that signer. And then finally, we'll say const contract equals new ethers dot contract. We'll pass it the contract address, ABI, and the signer. You don't need the signer for this contract object to exist, but we add the signer because now we're going to say, hey, anytime we call a function on contract, use the signer to interact with it. Okay. So now we have a contract. Now we have an Ethers contract in our front end. Guess what we can do? Well, you gosh darn right, we can start writing some functions to interact with it. So we'll write await. And actually, I'm going to do a try catch just because a ton of weird oddities can happen here. So we'll do try. We'll say catch error. And then in case of an error, we'll do console.log error. So we're going to wrap this whole thing in a try catch. We're going to say try await contract.store 77. Boom. And that's it. So now we go back to our front end. We do a little refresh. Oh, excuse me. We're going to need to rerun yarn Browserify, right, to re-update our bundle. And there's a package called Watchify that will automatically Browserify stuff, but we're not going to use that here. We go back to our front end. We do a little refresh. Make sure we're connected. Now, if I call store 77, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that I did it right? No, I didn't do it right. Contract address is not defined. Where's contract address? That's because I spelled it wrong someplace else. Or I just called it address. Contract address. Here we go. We'll browserify this again. A little refresh. We're connected. Store. What do you know? MetaMask pops up and it even gives us a little bit of information. It's saying, hey, on this contract address, you're calling the store function. And you can see all the transaction coding is not available for chain ID. Oh, okay. So never mind. It doesn't do that. But it shows us the exact binary data of the transaction that we're sending and any other details about it. So this is calling that store function on our local blockchain. And if we go to our local blockchain, we scroll to the bottom. Right now, we saw some errors because there was no contract address. But once we hit confirm, oh, excuse me. So one of the annoying things about doing this stuff is whenever you're working with a chain, like hard hat, where your nonce is going to change all the time, you have to reset the account all the time. So if you run into stuff like this, just go to your hard hat, reset account, and that resets the nonce, like I just said. Now let's try it again. Now that we've reset the nonce, and this time it'll actually work. And if we look on our MetaMask, we can see we have a store transaction pending, and it just went through. And if we go to our node, well, it's still freaking out a little bit. But that's okay, because I'm going to show you that it actually went through. We're just going to create a little function, a little quick function called async function read, where we're just going to read from the blockchain. And we're going to grab the contract address, contract ABI. We're going to grab almost everything from up here. Provider, signer, and contract, everything. This. And we're just going to say const value equals await contract dot retrieve. Retrieve. How do you spell retrieve? This is how I do a spell checker. Retrieve. Contract dot retrieve. And then we're just going to do console dot log value. So this is a new function called read. We're going to export this function read. In our front end, we're going to make a new button. On click equals bundle.read. We're just going to call it read. Run Browserify. Boom. Go back to our front end. We now have this read. If I click read, we're reading off of the blockchain. We're reading what is currently on our contract, and we get a big number. Excuse me. Let's do read. Instead of just doing dot value, we'll do console dot value dot to string, so it's more readable. Browserify. Fresh read 77. So our transaction did go through, and now we see the transaction actually posted, and that is how we can build websites. That is how we can do anything on a front end. Yes, we haven't used a framework here. Yes, this is very minimalistic, but it's a good way. It just shows you kind of what's going on behind the scenes when you build your crazy React or Angular or whatever. Any questions about any of that? And now if we have time, we'll see if we can deploy something to Fleek, or if we can work with, actually, we'll take the audience's pick. We'll either work with Next.js or we'll deploy this horrible website, this horribly minimalistic website to Fleek. What do people want to see? And are there any questions? Yes. Is it possible to have a disconnect button too? Yes, it is. But we're not going to make that yet. If not, you can go to MetaMask 3 connect sites and remove the sites from there. Yes. MetaMask. three dots, or click that connected thing and then go disconnect. Cool. And we're disconnected now. Does React play nicer, have better docs with Web3 than Vue? I'm not much of a front end person. Yes. I do all of my front end stuff in Next.js. I think Next.js plays even better than React. And Next.js is built on top of React. Yeah, Next.js is the way. LOL, I spell check the same way. Yep, me too. For just calling read functions from the contract, if I create my contract with signer instead of just provider, what performance penalty does it have? I'm not sure, but you do need your provider, right? Because our signer, for doing read, you don't need a signer. For doing read, you don't need a signer. For doing read, you don't need a signer, but you do need at least a provider. So signer is kind of like provider plus the signer. Um, you don't need it, but you do need at least the provider. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure the performance penalty. It should be minimal. How would you add nice design / details? You would do what's called CSS, or cascading the style sheets. We're not going to go over that quite yet. Got to rewatch from the beginning. Also, I should mention this too. So I did a video on this on my YouTube channel. I think it's really good. This one right here. I will share this. That goes over everything we went through here and a little bit more. I think it's like an hour long. So that's another one you can check out too. Okay, so what do we get? So Next.js. A lot of people talking about Next.js. One person, let's upload IPFS. Cross-chain contracts. Deploying is pretty easy from your other tutorials. I vote we do Next.js. Next.js, thanks. Is it possible to deploy? So it sounds like we're going to do Next.js. Is it possible to deploy an app on Vercel / Firebase using a decentralized domain, or to have it fully decentralized website needs to handle on Fleek from A to Z? So yes. So, and if you go to the workshop later today, we're going to deploy a website, decentralized end to end, which is going to be really cool. You can use a decentralized domain on Vercel / Firebase 100%. Just know that your front end isn't decentralized, right? So your domain will be decentralized, which is great, but your actual front end code won't be. So Fleek is a service that helps you deploy to IPFS. And Filecoin. Fleek itself is a centralized service. So you don't have to use Fleek. You can deploy directly to IPFS yourself. In fact, I've done it many times. But yeah, Fleek will help your front end code be decentralized as well. Web3 provider comes from MetaMask, but where does Ethers get JSON RPC provider from? Where does Ethers get JSON RPC provider from? Yes. So you've probably seen const provider equals new ethers.providers.json RPC provider, and then you'll pass in like HTTPS / alchemy.io / blah blah blah. These two do the same thing. This line up here just says, hey, grab that URL from inside of MetaMask. And this line just says, hey, we're going to pass it the provider ourselves. Hopefully that makes sense. Really good questions. How to deploy on IPFS then? We're going to do Next.js. First, come later tonight, because later tonight we are going to deploy to IPFS. Have you used Skynet or Ceramic before? I've used both of them before, yes. Cool. Okay, so we had a bunch of people talk about Next.js. Let's do some Next.js stuff. So to do the Next.js stuff, I'm actually going to start a new window. So I'm going to create a new make a new directory called Next.js. CD Next.js hack. I'm going to open that up. But for now, I'm going to kill my little chain that's running, and we're going to work on this instead. Cool. So we're going to open this up. Cool. So now we're in a brand new folder here. Let me just and what do you want to what do you all want to see? Because we only have an hour left. Normally, what I'll do here is I would show you all how to do Next.js plus Ethers, which is good because it'll show you like exactly what's going on with Next.js, right? And it'll be easier to kind of learn and go there. Or I can show you some best practices that I like to see, like using packages to make our lives easier, like coding stuff. What do you want to see? Do you want to see kind of are you all kind of struggling? You're like, hey, well, struggling is the wrong word. Are you like, hey, we want to kind of see the process, the mental process? We want to see like, okay, an easier step from the HTML to the Next.js? Or do you want to say, no, just show us like some cool Next.js stuff? What do you all want to see? Cool Next.js stuff, like better practice Next.js stuff? Or are you like, like I'm still a little confused. Let's do some, let's baby step this. What do we want to see? People are like best practice, best practice. We want to see good code. Anybody want to see the nobody wants to see the I don't even know why I asked. Best practice, but okay. All right, so you guys want to see some cool Next.js stuff. That's what you're saying basically. Probably best practices. Okay. All right, I'll show you some cool Next.js stuff. Cool. And like I said, later tonight, we'll show you how to connect to IPFS and deploy this and all that good stuff. Yeah, tonight, I think it's at 4:30. I think I scheduled 3 hours. I don't know why in the heck I scheduled a 3-hour session on Friday, but you know, I'm trying to make y'all learn. I'm trying to make y'all better. So we're a hive mind. Cool. All right. All right. So let's do some Next.js stuff. Let's do some Next.js stuff. Okay. So to get started here in our little Next.js project, we're going to use that hardhat simple storage first again, though. So we're going to create hardhat simple storage. I'm going to run yarn hardhat node again. And it's going to spin up that simple storage blockchain, right? We have deploying simple storage deployed here. We've got our accounts and stuff. Cool. We now have a local blockchain node running on here. And since I've restarted my blockchain node, I got to go to my MetaMask. I'll go to this account, settings, advanced, reset account. So I got to reset my account for working with my local hardhat here. Cool. And if I refresh, this is dead now. Great. And all the code that we're going to be working with here is located Next.js Morales MetaMask Connect. So we are, if people are familiar with Morales, we are not going to be using Morales server. So this is going to be a decentralized application. We're not going to be interacting with Morales server at all. But Morales has some really fantastic hooks that we can use to build our front ends. And if you want to see some other examples, we have an example in here using Ethers, using UseDApp, which is another front end package, Web3 React, another front end package, and Web3 Modal, another front end package. There's a ton of front end packages for working with Next.js, React, and Web3. So we're going to be using Morales because I think their hooks are phenomenal. But okay, so we have our blockchain node starting. We're going to create a new terminal, and let's do this. To get started, to create a simple Next.js application, we do yarn create next app, period. We're going to create a next application in this directory, or npm, or excuse me, npx create next app, period. Whatever you want to do. I like yarn, so I'm going to use yarn. Is not Morales defeats the purpose of decentralization. Like I said, we are not using Morales servers. We are just using the hooks. So it's when we do yarn add Morales, we're just adding all the hooks into our own local code base. We are not using the Morales servers here. And I would also disagree with that. If all of your logic is still on chain, doing something that makes the front end a little bit nicer, I think isn't the end of the world. So we are not using the Morales server. We are just using the open source hooks. We're just using the open source hooks. And since it's open source hooks, that means it's like we have it, we're going to install it locally. So it's like the same as me doing ethers, like yarn add ethers. It's like literally going to be the same as me doing that. So now to work with, now that we have this in here, we have this package.json. We have a whole bunch of scripts. So if I run yarn dev, say, hey, I have something running on. Oh, it's because I'm doing another thing somewhere else. But if I go to this localhost, we have a real minimalistic Next.js application running just by doing yarn create and yarn dev. Let me walk you through what this is doing. So we have our little next file, our .next, which completely ignore. It's got all this weird Next.js code. Node modules is going to be our node modules. It's going to be all our dependencies. Pages, this is where all of our Next.js pages are. App.js, you can kind of think of as like the page that every other page gets routed through. And then index.js is going to be like our home page. So app.js is almost like, you can almost think of app.js as like the main function. And then index.js is one of the pages that gets routed through this main function. Public is just going to be like some stuff like this. This is like a Vercel image. Styles is going to be that styling stuff. So someone said, hey, how do I style this? Well, with styles, with CSS, cascading style sheets, we have some linting, gitignore, which is for GitHub, Next.js config. We're not going to do too much with that. Our package.json, of course, README, and a yarn.lock. So to update our site, this index.js has a whole bunch of code in here that I'm going to delete. You're cute and all code, but we're going to dump it all. We're going to delete everything outside of the head bit. And then I'm just going to say, hello from index. Save it. It is automatically compiled. And if we go back to our front end, hello from index. It interacts with it. Morale server is built on IPFS, so decentralized, I believe. I believe that is not correct. You can't have a server on IPFS. IPFS does not run computation. So you cannot have a server on IPFS. Again, we're just using the hooks for this. We're not using the server for this. So that's a conversation for another time. But I would disagree. I would disagree with you anyways. Anyways, hello from index. Now what we can do, now we have this page here, is if we wanted to, we can make more pages. Like I could say like dog.js, copy paste everything in index, paste it in here, say hello from dog. And I can do /dog. Now hello from dog, right? That's how we switch like pages or switch like links in in Vercel. But we're going to delete dog.js because we don't need that. So now, how can we, now in our contract here, we're going to want to how do I do this? Now, in our last project, one of the first things that we did was create this connect button, right? And you notice that a lot of people were saying, hey, what happens when you switch networks? What happens when you switch accounts? What happens when you disconnect? Our front end did nothing when all that stuff happened. Our front end didn't do any of that stuff, which was really upsetting. Okay. Because we want our front ends to react when the user switches networks, when the user switches accounts, etc. So a package that has all that stuff built in is this Web3 UI Kit, which is built on top of Morales. And again, these are all open sourced hooks. And it has this thing called this connect button, which allows you to just import connect button, and you can now be connected to MetaMask. And you can be connected to MetaMask a ton of different ways. You can be connected to Wallet Connect, Trust Wallet, all these different places rather than just the singular, rather than just MetaMask. So if you have other ways you want to connect, you can connect with those. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder called components. And in here, we're going to create a new file called header.js. And in this header, so this is going to be slightly different than the code that I sent that I have on the GitHub, but this is even better. 1 second. Where's my code? What we can do is in a new terminal, we're going to do yarn add Morales, React Morales, and Web3 UI Kit. We probably could just do Web3 UI Kit because that comes baked with Morales and React Morales. And what we're going to do is we're going to import the connect button from Web3 UI Kit. And we're going to do export default function header. And in this header, I'm just going to say return connect button Morales auth equals false. Saying Morales auth equals false is basically just saying, hey, don't connect to like this. Don't connect to a Morales server because again, we're not using the Morales server. We're just using these tools. And the reason I like to put this in a header is because if I want to turn this into like a nav bar, I can do something like nav this. I can do a connect button, and then I can do like home, a whole bunch of links or whatever I want, right? So I'll make like a header like this or something, and we are exporting it. And so what we can do back in our app.js is we can do import header from /components. Excuse me, /components/header. Add this header into our return statement here. However, as people who have done front-end development know, components and pages have a hard time interacting with each other and understanding each other. So if I define like connecting to the blockchain in this header component, all my other pages are going to be like, all right, cool. I don't know about that. So what's up? So what we need to do is we need to wrap all of our components in a Morales provider. And this component thing here is like all the other pages. So in our app.js, when we see my app component, this is referring to index.js on our homepage. If we were doing dog.js, it would refer to dog.js. So what we want to do is we want to wrap this with Morales. So we'll say import Morales provider from React Morales. Oops. We're going to wrap this whole thing up in a Morales provider like that. And then we're going to say in here, initialize on mount equals false, which again, this is us saying, hey, don't work with the Morales server. We're only using Morales for your wonderfully fantastic hooks. And optionally later on, if you want to connect to Morale server, you can just make that true. But the hooks are so freaking good. We do it like that. And then we can just say header in here like that. Now, if I save, our stuff is still running. I go back to our front end. We do a little refresh. Now we have this beautifully formatted little header button here. And if we click it, we automatically disconnect. We can connect, and we can choose a whole bunch of stuff we want to connect with. So we can connect with MetaMask if you have some other type of wallet, or if you're using Wallet Connect, Trust Wallet, Token Pocket, SafePal, etc. It comes with these all built in. It also has the functionality for you to add more, like Ledger and etc. So it's really cool because it has all this automatically built in, and it's smart enough that when we switch accounts or we switch networks, or excuse me, let's go. Where's my, here it is. If we switch accounts, if we switch networks, right? Let me watch. It says my balance right now is 0. I'm going to switch wallets and it automatically updates. So it's this really, really helpful, helpful little connect button, which connects our app easily with literally like this one line of code. So, right, we didn't even have to have the header. We could have just stuck it, that connect button right here, but I like to kind of show the header here. I believe Morales uses MySQL type database. Do you think GraphQL would be an alternative to use something like Morales? Yes. So for indexing events, you can use something like Morales. You can also use something like the graph. So the graph is going to do it in a decentralized context, right? But the graph works on like test nets and main nets. So you're not going to have like a whole bunch of the graph nodes on your local network. So for speed of development, I think you probably will be a little bit faster using something like Morales. But yeah, if you want your app totally decentralized, you're going to want to use something like the graph. Great questions. Yeah, the graph is fantastic. Morales is fantastic. They do very different things, right? They do very different things. So we have this really cool connect button. That's awesome. Now what can we do? Well, let's go back to our index. Let's go back to our index thing. What we can do now in our index.js, is there's some really cool hooks that Morales come with that we can use to run contract functions and read functions. Okay, so we're going to do import use Web3 contract from React Morales. And this use Web3 contract is what we're going to use. And I'm just going to delete this head bit because we don't even need that. This use Web3 contract is how we can actually read and write from our contracts. So inside of this div, or excuse me, outside of this div, outside of the return function, we're going to say const run contract function equals use Web3 contract. And just by doing this, we now can run contract functions using Morales really easily. So if we wanted to, make a little button, right in here, let me wrap this in parentheses. If we wanted to make a button in here, button, all this store 778. We can do that. So we'll say button equals store 778. We're going to do const options. Actually, let's just do it. We're going to have a run contract function just have all of the options in it automatically. So to work with this, oops. Inside this run contract function, I can give it an ABI. I'll give it a contract address, a function name, then any params. So ABI, we've already got in our last project, but we're actually going to import it. So this is a better practice. We're going to make a constants folder, and we're going to add in here, we're going to add abi.js. I'm just going to copy paste. But we're just going to do module.exports equals, and then that ABI object, that same one that we did before, a massive ABI object. And with that, back in our index.js, we can do import ABI from /constants / ABI, which looks a lot nicer. And now we can say ABI is ABI. We can go back to our hard hat chain, find the address of simple storage, which is going to be this right here. Function, commas need to be. Function name is going to be store. Params are going to be what? Well, it's going to be favorite number is going to be, what do we say? 778. What we said? Favorite number is going to be 778. And we can also do a whole bunch of other stuff like on success. Like we can tell our front end to do something when this transaction completes. But what we can do is we can say button on click equals a function, and that function is going to be doing run contract function. And with just that minimalistic amount of code, we now have a front end that can interact with this blockchain, right? So I'll do a little refresh just to make sure I didn't screw anything up. We're going to reset our MetaMask account. Now I've hit store 777. MetaMask pops up. We're calling a store function on our contract address. Click confirm, and bada bing. Right, it has now gone through, and now, we have stored 777 on our node, or 778. So if I scroll down, looks like we ran into an issue with something. This function selector was not recognized. So I might have spelled something wrong. Favorite number. Looks like it actually went through though. So I might have done something else wrong. But yeah, it looks like it went through. I might have done something wrong. Oh well. In any case, I've just been talking for a lot. Let's look at some questions here. Scaffold ETH has a way to deploy local to graph node. Yes, Scaffold ETH is awesome. Yes, and it has a way to deploy the graph node. Scaffold ETH is really, really cool. Yeah, he's very excited. Do Morales hooks work in classes? So hooks are hooks are basically like not for class-based components. They're for the answer is like not really, basically. Oh yeah, Paul answered. Hooks aren't supposed to be used in class components. Yeah, if you're using hooks and classes, I would question your architecture. It seems like you're kind of, I mean, two things do the same job. But yeah. So that's more about how to work with that. Hooks are only supported by functional components. Yep, exactly. Cool. So that's some basic stuff on how to like run contract functions and with Next.js, right? So we just stored, which is great. We connected to our blockchain, we ran a transaction, and that's pretty much it. So, but yeah, my favorite thing about this is this connect button. I'm telling you, this connect button is everything under the sun. The the other thing is if I refresh, we're still connected. It also stores locally. This is one of my favorite parts about it. If you go to right click, you go to application. If you go to locals, let me zoom out. You go to local storage. Oh my god, I have so much random stuff in here. Let's clear that out. Application. It's all just random stuff I've done. Okay, cool. Let's go to storage, clear site data, local storage here. Okay, cool. When I connect here via MetaMask, it saves that I've connected with MetaMask in our local storage. That way, if I refresh, our website knows, oh, they connected with MetaMask. Let's try to see if that's still there. Because otherwise, you'll just disconnect every single time you refresh, which is obviously really annoying. But when I disconnect, it gets rid of it. So when I refresh now, it doesn't have that anymore. So there's just a ton of stuff in here that make this connect button like my favorite thing ever for working with front ends. Sold me on the connect button. Yep. Started loving Morales hooks. Yeah, the hooks are like just my absolute favorite part. They're really, really well done. Cool. So Morales is centralized though, right? So the hooks are open source, right? So it's the same thing with saying like, hey, like Ethers is centralized, right? Just the open source code, once you download it to your project, it's in your project. It's not centralized. You can upload your code with Morales hooks to IPFS and it's decentralized, right? If you use a Morales server, then you're adding a centralized component. We are not using a Morales server here. We're just using the Morales open source tools. When you import a contract ABI, can you use all of its functions in the contract, or will you have to repeat the process for each function you want to use? I noticed you imported the entire ABI. Can you use all of its functions in the contract, or will you have to repeat the process for each? When you import a contract ABI, can you use all of its functions in the contract, or will you have to repeat the process for each function you want to use? So you imported the entire. Yeah, so we imported the ABI here. This ABI has all the functions, so we only need to import it once. And for different contracts, we could still use that ABI. We would just use a different function name. And different parameters. Really good question. All right, so we have some time left. What do y'all want to see now? We can do more front end stuff. We can do more. What do y'all want to see? We can make more buttons. We can play with this more. Is anything confusing? Is there anything confusing here? Or is there anything where people are like, because again, the purpose that we do these live sessions is for you all to interact and ask questions. So so if you're not asking questions, these live sessions are not a good use of anyone's time. Cross-chain transactions. Okay. What do you mean by cross-chain transactions? What do you mean by cross-chain? Because that is a very scary subject. If you can dive into that more, we could talk about it. Can we all go over event handling by Morales? Ooh, I like that suggestion. I like that suggestion a lot. How does testnet mining work? How do miners earn that they give us free ETH? Miners are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They are not earning any fees. I mean, they might be getting like sponsored or something by like the EF, but they don't earn money. They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. A lot of the testnet miners are like Geth people running Geth. I tried running a Rinkeby miner once. I didn't do so hot, but a lot of them are people running out of the goodness of their heart. I've run a Gorilla node before because I love this space and I just want to help it however I can. Showing browser local storage to 50 stream watchers seems brave, especially with GitHub open. Yeah, but it's on my local host. I don't really care. I was thinking that too, but yeah, I'm on my local host. This is also my dummy account, so I don't. If you look at my GitHub, I'm not signed in. I sign in with my burner account here. But yeah, in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I mean, this is why I use like a different setup for when I stream. Good call. Although if you saw me expose anything bad, please let me know. I don't think I did because again, like it's just my burner accounts. Is it possible to demonstrate chain changed? Yes. Okay, so we have event handling, cross chain, chain changed. Some good questions. I'm building an app game with Chainlink. It will be important for me to be able to process other transactions. So you're talking about cross-chain. I'm not totally sure where we'd go with this, but let's see what other people are saying. Thorchain or Rango Exchange. Not familiar with either one of those. I'll paste my original question. Please go over the buttons again. Dev Coffee. Do you know when VRF is going to be on AVAX? I'm not sure. It's being worked on. Please go over the buttons again. What part of the buttons you want me to go over? So here's what we have. We have cross-chain. We have event handling. We have buttons. What else do people want? Using 2 contracts on 2 different networks. Cross-chain. So let's take 2 contracts, 2 networks. I heard miners are the most evil people causing global warming and kill the environment. How can they be generous? Miners are definitely not the most evil people on the planet. When a user on the site is going to make a transaction using tokens, must always improve the use of those tokens. Or is there a way to only approve the use of tokens once? Multiple approval transaction costs consume a lot of gas. Great question. Yes. So when you call approve for a token, you can approve a certain amount of those tokens. So you can like improve basically infinite approval, and that would only require a single approval call. That's obviously a little bit dangerous because you're telling something that they can do whatever they want with your tokens forever, which can be really scary. So yeah, so you can have an ERC20 approve like nearly infinite, but that's like low-key terrifying. So all right, so here are the different things we talked about. Let's go over the buttons first, and then we can go over these two with the next minutes that we have here. So we have a button here, and we're saying on click, we're going to do this we're going to call a function, and the function we're going to call is going to be run contract function. So we're going to call this. So when we do use Web3 contract, when we import this Web3 contract and we pass all these parameters to it, we get this function run contract function, which we're calling when we say store 778 on the button. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the header, just this connect button, is imported from Web3 UI Kit, which just has all this stuff built in. Has all this random stuff built in. Makes sense. Yeah. So, but if you did see something crazy, let me know. But yeah, I've been streaming for a while now, so I try to take a bunch of precautions when streaming. But yeah, thank you for calling that out. And yeah, if you saw anything bad, like let me know. If you did see some GitHub stuff, it might be connected to my like one of my burner GitHub accounts. So like I don't know, like just don't burn. Actually, I don't really care. I would just delete the account. It's whatever. Can you show us something connecting Chainlink VRF? That would take too long. So, sorry. All right. So let's talk about cross chain. Let's talk about 2 contracts on 2 networks because a lot of people were asking for that, and that can be a little bit tricky. So, and to actually demo this, I would need 2 contracts on 2 different networks. And this is a little bit off script, so I don't have anything practiced for doing this. What would be? Well, what do you want to see with this, right? So I'm assuming you'd want to see like, yeah. Actually, I'm not even sure what you'd want to see with this. So when we change networks, right? Oh, am I not running this anymore? When we change networks, our front end updates. And so we would just add, oh, can you explain cross-chain from a high level? Okay. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I like that a lot better because demoing that would take some time because we'd have to like spin up 2 chains, 2 contracts and do some stuff. So when we change blockchains, what are we doing? We're changing we're changing that RPC connection, right? And you can even see our front end is updating here with saying, oh, well, on this blockchain, you have this much ETH. And on this blockchain, you have this much ETH, right? So whenever we switch networks, we're switching what chain we're connected to. So in our code, right here, where we're hard coding our contract address, we would instead do something like if on chain X show contract Y. If on chain Z show contract A, right? So well, we would just have some code that does this switching and just switches out this contract address. And then the rest of it would stay the same. So we would just have some code if on chain X show chain Y, if on chain Z show contract A. That's really it. And that's how we can do stuff cross chain, because again, in our MetaMask, in our connection, we're going to be each one of the RPC nodes connected with each one of these chains is going to be different and associated with that chain. So that's pretty much it. From a high level, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's clear. So we also talked about event handling. We went over the buttons. I gave a brief overview of that. If that didn't make sense, feel free to ask more. Event handling. So when we're talking about event handling here, and I saw a bunch of people drop off. Before y'all go, if people are dropping off, because I know we're kind of doing Q&A right now. Before people drop off, where is it? Brand right here. Boom. Scan this QR code, please, and take the feedback form. Let me also post it in the chat again. I wonder if I can save comments in here. Can I save comments? Can't really save comments. That's kind of annoying. I'm going to post this in the chat. Please take this feedback form. Let us know if this was good, if this was bad, if you liked this, if you hated this. Let us know what you think about this. Right. So it's in the comments, this feedback form. Also, QR code up here. Please scan. And my quality just went down, so it's probably hard to scan right now. But now it's back up. So scan the QR code, hit that link, give us feedback. Let us know what you thought about this session, because I see people dropping off right now. And so before we drop off, before we go into the Q&A, please give us feedback. Let us know if you liked it or if you hated it, And we have a very long workshop later today. I'm going to try to cut it down from 3 hours to 2 hours. I don't know if coding for 3 hours is anything anybody wants to sit through. So yeah, please scan QR code, hit the link, and yes, thank you very much. So let me go back into code now. Go back into code mode, answer some questions. QR code is going to stay up there for a little bit. Okay, cool. So let's talk about event handling. So the way Morales, when you want to query like a mapping, you're going to need to do some type of, what's a better way to phrase this? So both Morales and the Graph have a way to like index events. And Morales does it by just listening to a contract and listening for those events to be emitted. Now, this would be like a centralized version of event handling. And what it does is it listens to those events. I'm not going to show you how to do it because that's like a much longer conversation. But it listens to those events and it stores those events in a centralized database. Then later on, if you want to run some complex query, you just call to your Morales database and boom, you're good to go. Right? This would be, and doing something like that would be really good too if you're trying to build some, chain analysis website. If you need some very specific data, if you need something very interesting. So it basically listens for those events and it sticks them into a database, and then you can read them later. If that wasn't clear, let me know. We can talk about more later. Okay, cool. Possible to demonstrate chain changed. Hopefully I was doing that in the browser, right? I was changing the chain. We saw the website updating. So I answered that. VRF verification would be nice, or cross-chain, please. I'm not sure what VRF verification means. I was going to add to the testnet miner case that some testnets are proof of authority, which cuts down on cost a lot. Yes. Coven is a proof of authority, for example, cuts down on cost a lot because we just say, hey, you know what? Whatever this node says is true. All the fancy things like show account balance for the Web3 Ui Kit from Morales. Ooh, yes. So the Web3 UI Kit has some really cool stuff. And if you go, there's like a live storybook demo. It's like an interactive demo, which is really cool. And like you can like see like kind of interacting with them in like kind of this interactive way. And then you can go to like docs, show code, and you can kind of see all the code, which for the connect button, it's just connect button, which is really cool. If you want to kind of go through this, you can see just like a ton of stuff that it comes with. So if you're looking to build your website with Web3 stuff, I mean, this is really helpful. So there's like an NFT thing, right? We'll do show code. You just do it like this. You do the address of the NFT, the chain that it's on, fetch metadata, token ID, do NFT balance, which is just like all of your NFTs, which is really cool, obviously, right? Show code, say whose NFTs you want to show and on what address. It's got a ton of like this storybook is basically what you're looking for. Just a ton of really powerful things built in so that you don't have to go and code all that stuff. How would you process an incoming Bitcoin transaction when you're on the Binance Smart Chain network or ETH network? Well, you would have to have some type of Bitcoin connection on your front end, right? So they're not going to have like a MetaMask for the Bitcoin connection. So you would need like an RPC URL provider for Bitcoin in your browser. So instead of connecting to MetaMask or Solana or any browser wallet, you would connect. Well, unless unless they also have like a Bitcoin connection, you would need to connect to the Bitcoin blockchain yourself on the back end. So you would need an RPC URL on the back end to connect, and then you need to process it like that. Even at a high level, how would we design a section of a website that only NFT holders can access? Good question. So you do something like, let's say we make some component, new file called NFT only.js, or a page, same thing. And then what we would just do in here is we would just add some code. We would just say like if count has NFT, then show page. So this is pseudocode, but yeah, if account has NFT, show page. That's really it. And an account would be like whatever account is MetaMask-y. Excuse me, whatever account that's connected to MetaMask. Yep, you could do that. Yep. One contract doing some cool stuff, then signaling other contract to do something. We're probably not going to have time for that. This is how OpenSea does cross-chaining. Yes. Actually, yeah, that's exactly how OpenSea does cross. So if the difference with OpenSea is actually, so I can go to OpenSea.io, right? I can be connected on, I can be on my hardhat localhost, and I can still explore the website, right? I can still go to these apps. So OpenSea is a centralized application. So on the back end, OpenSea actually isn't connecting to our MetaMask, right? If I go to my MetaMask, I'm not connected, right? I'm not connected here, but yet all this stuff is still showing up. How is that possible? Well, the reason it's possible is because on the back end, OpenSea is connecting to its own RPC URL instead of through our MetaMasks. Now, that's something that you can do. It puts the ownership of you running a server. So if you want to do that, you absolutely can, but it's a different architecture. I think OpenSea is mostly read-only in terms of cross-chain. Yes, OpenSea is read-only in terms of cross-chain here. If I wanted to like buy this, I would need to connect with something. If I wanted to buy that, I would need to connect. Please see the QR. Please see the QR in the top right of your screen. Maybe just go over the types of transactions that are cross-chain. I only ever use bridges, but assume new mechanisms or niches are developed on a monthly basis. Okay, so let's talk about cross-chain for a second. So the reason cross-chain, and let me sit up. So that the reason cross, and then again, whoa, I bumped my mic. QR code up here. The reason cross-chain is terrifying. It's terrifying is because most, and now I'm talking about cross-chain bridges here, right? Like when I send a transaction on one chain to another chain, the reason that's terrifying to me is because most bridges are centralized. When I send, when I try to cross a bridge, when I send a transaction, there's some group of servers that needs to do that work. And most of the time, we're got our fingers crossed. We're praying that our money is going to come out the other side. And that's a terrifying thing to me because if you send a ton of money and they say, hey, you know what, screw you, they can easily rug you because they have control over all your funds. When I'm, and this is why I'm incredibly excited for Chainlink CCIP, Chainlink Cross-Chain Interoperability Protocol, because that will be a decentralized bridge. So I'm terrified of bridges right now because most of them are centralized. I'm excited for Chainlink CCIP. New bridges kind of come out all the time. Most of them are centralized though, and that's terrifying to me. And please grow a beard. This is pretty much as long as I get without me like getting sick of my face, and then I shave. If you ever see it like a lot longer than this, that just means I've like been having a rough week and I just haven't bothered to shave. Although I got rid of the neck beard, so that's good. That means I got my life together. In Morales Connect hook, why does it not pop up MetaMask for the first time like you did in the Pure.js? Great question. So you're talking about like this, right? Why is it not popping up right now? You're like, what is going on? That's because when we're connected already, if I hit this button to disconnect, I only disconnected like from my website only knows that it disconnected. My MetaMask is still saying, hey, you can still interact with that. So it still says disconnected. And I have to go to my MetaMask and actually disconnect from my accounts to disconnect. Now, if I hit connect again, select MetaMask. Now MetaMask. Oh my God, I'm not showing my screen. Sorry. So if I connect, my MetaMask says that it's connected. Connected, woohoo. And if I click this, I disconnect, but I only really disconnect from my app. My app here says, hey, like you're disconnected. My MetaMask, though, my MetaMask goes, hey, nah, you're still connected. So my app thinks I'm disconnected. MetaMask thinks I'm connected. So that way, if I hit connect, MetaMask, our app goes, hey, MetaMask, can we connect? MetaMask goes, you're already connected. You're good. And then our app goes, oh, okay, cool. So that's why we can just kind of like rip around and do this. But when I disconnect here, now if I go reconnect, MetaMask pops up and goes, oh, well, let's get authorization first. And then we connect, and then life is good. Good question. Why are fees cheaper on different chains built on EVM compared to ETH? A ton of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is going to be, and let me switch back to me for this. One of the biggest reasons is going to be network congestion. A chain like Ethereum that is incredibly decentralized, where there's a ton of demand for block space, where there's a ton of demand to send transactions, is going to be more expensive, right? So Ethereum is one of the most decentralized blockchains out there, which is a ton of nodes. And you're basically paying for that extra security. Paying for the extra security, paying for the extra decentralization, because so many people want to send transactions through, because the price of ETH is so high. So there's a ton of reasons why. Now, a chain like Polygon, which is EVM compatible, a side chain like Polygon is going to be a lot cheaper because blocks are going to be a lot faster, bigger. There's not as much demand for block space on Polygon because there's less security as well. So that's why, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So you're getting a cheaper transaction. You're getting a little bit less security, a little bit less of a congested blockchain. That's why. What chains have cheaper gas? Polygon is one that I usually deploy to when I'm looking to do kind of like a fun project on Polygon because it's a lot cheaper. Avalanche is cheaper. I mean, most are cheaper. You can also look at layer 2s, which have nearly the same security as like a layer 1, as as Ethereum, like Arbitrum or Optimism. They will also have cheaper gas. We have 5 minutes left here. Off-topic questions. Are there jobs only with Solidity with no front end, basically? Yes. Yes, there are. Personal question. Have you ever participated in a hackathon? Yeah. I learned Solidity at ETH Denver, at the ETH Denver hackathon. I showed up. I said, I'm going to do this. And I sat and I learned Solidity for like, I don't know, like 30 hours straight or something like that. This was a little over 2 years ago. A little over 2 years ago, I first learned Solidity. Could you take that has NFT component and wrap it around buttons and divs? Yes. Yes, CCIP. I'm not wanting a bridge to move tokens. I'm wanting to signal messages from one chain to another. Same thing. You still need a bridge to do that. You still need some type of bridge, right? And most are centralized right now. Can we make the MetaMask functions automatic for multiple transactions after single time authentications? Can we make the MetaMask functions automatic for multiple transactions after single time authentications? Kind of. You basically have to code your smart contract in such a way. Like you can't have approve ERC20 and swap be one MetaMask call. It's got to be two, just because that's how the contracts work. So kind of. I don't know if that really answered your question. I mean, basically the answer is no. But you can do some clever stuff. But yeah, basically the answer is no. Yes. Do you use Docker? If so, can you give a bit of a rundown of what you would use it for? Yeah, we're going super off topic. Great. Yeah, I use Docker a lot. Docker's really good if you want to run very specific, in a very specific environment on any environment, which hopefully that's not confusing. Like if I'm running some really weird environment setup and I want someone to run exactly what I'm running, so there's no weird issues, I can say, hey, here's my Docker image, just click run, right? And it's just kind of a way to run always the exact same, no matter who's running it. Are there any differences programmatically between a proof of work ETH node and proof of stake ETH node? Being for you, no. For your Solidity devs, no. There's no difference. It is addictive, isn't it? Is what addictive? Did you win? Oh no, I did not. I did terrible. I did awful. I did horrible. And I kept trying and I kept learning Solidity, and now I teach Solidity, which is kind of fun. So you gotta start from somewhere. You gotta start from. I did not win. I was awful. These have been great questions. Any other last questions? And remember, QR code. Please take the feedback form. Let us know what you thought of this. Solidity. Yes. Solidity. Any other thoughts, comments, questions here? Solidity. Learning Solidity. 1-1. Oh, learning Solidity is addictive. Yes. I would agree. As someone who knows both Solana and Solidity, which is more enjoyable? So I know Solana, but I've been working with Solidity a lot more. I feel way more comfortable with Solidity. So Solana, the Solana environment has kind of this meme where coding on Solana is like chewing glass because it's definitely painful. I would probably agree with that. It is a bit like chewing glass. Also, my Rust is just not nearly as good as my Solidity. So Rust isn't as good as Solidity. So I mean, for me, it's Solidity. Solana people don't shoot me. Have you tried Ink? Very, very cursory look at Ink. Very cursory look at Ink. It's been on my to-do list. I haven't had time to dive deep into it though. Have you won one yet? I don't participate in hackathons anymore because I don't think that would be cool. I'm not here to like compete with people. Like if someone watches my tutorial and then they show up and then I'm like trying to dunk on them in a competition, No, I haven't won one yet, but I also don't participate in them because I'm also a judge in a lot of them. Watch that other video, Connect and MetaMask. Thanks. Okay, great. Trimming glass is a skill. Any AI and smart contract thoughts? I'm really excited for when AI comes to smart contracts. That's kind of the super summary. If I approve transaction limit for an account of 1,000, can that account make multiple transfers of 900 to my account, or is the total amount? So we're talking about ERC20s. So ERC20 tokens, they if you approve 1,000 and you transfer 900, the approval goes down to 1,000 minus 900, which equals 100. So no. Thank you. Hopefully you like the session. Do smart contracts have a use case with IoT? Absolutely. We don't have time to talk about that here, though. Thank you for not participating now. Give other chance. I did the intro to Solana as part of the Seal Hackathon. I can relate to that meme. Yeah, it's definitely like chewing glass, but yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we are over time. Again, please take the QR code, or in the chat, we have a link to the feedback form. Please take it. Let us know which of these workshops you like, which you don't like. Later today, we're taking everything that we learned here and we are building a full stack application end to end. We're going to deploy it. We're going to build the contract. It's going to be a long session, but it's going to be a fun session. And this is something that you could even just submit to the hackathon. Well, don't submit this, maybe make some adjustments to it, right? But you could submit this to the hackathon as your project, as your basis for your front end, as your basis for your back end, whatever you want to do. And yeah, definitely go to that, and we'll see you there. All right, all. Take care.